Hey, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all, buddy. So we have your man is on again.
Colion Noir. We're talking
Yeah,
about
very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
we're talking about East Tampa, the AR-15, and the scooter. It's all going to come together nicely. It's going to be a video of a video, but the things he discusses in relation to it, well, because there's a short video that's super important. But I wanted to get his flavor on this thing because he's an expert, but also we, having dealt with firearms, have an opinion about how it affects our rights and things. We've got something to add, so we're gonna add a little something, but we'll let him start cooking.
Okay. So a guy on an electric scooter cruising past two cops with a slung AR-15, and nobody does anything. I don't even know where to start with this one, so let's just watch it.
Team riding past the cops with an AR-15 on his fucking scooter, bro. This is East Tampa, where I live, and just past two cops over here with a loaded AR-15.
You and me both, man.
So the AR-15 is the most commonly purchased and used rifle / carbine in the United States. It generally runs with a 20 or 30 round magazine, and it fires pretty effectively and pretty quickly, and out to about 25 or 30 meters, I could teach your mom how to hit the target in about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's very easy. It's very easy to use.
Low recoil, fairly accurate, as long as you can get a pretty good sight picture, like out past 30, 35, 40, 50-ish, like you'll hit most of the time, right? You just got to be real careful of what's behind the target, but you really shouldn't be engaging at 50 to 100 meters in the civilian world. It's more like a 21 to 30 feet kind of thing is where you're really going to be in the physical danger, right? So, but yeah, so he's just cruising around on his scooter
on his scooter.
Yeah, with an AR-15. And Florida is an open carry state, a constitutional carry state. You have the right to do that. Not only that, they have stand your ground laws and castle doctrine, which is functionally you never lose the right to defend yourself as it is a natural right, as talked about in Federalist Papers number 33 and other places discussing the formation of our government, also linking back to the Militia Act of 1792. And we're going to get into that a little bit later too. But there's that freedom to do that thing is a natural right in the view of the founders of our Constitution. So yeah, do it. And a lot of people say, hey, look, they didn't know about automatic firearms. No, they had Ferguson rifles in the late 1700s that were automatic weapons. It was just excessively expensive to manufacture them, but they had the capacity, right? So here we go. What do you think, Patrick?
Well, as a person who shot pistols over there and had a lot of fun over in the United States, I can understand why. I think it's strange because most Europeans don't see the draw to weaponry until they actually go out and shoot themselves. Then they see the draw to it. Me personally, the way my country is going at the moment, I wouldn't mind a pistol myself, to be honest.
Just to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to Colin. He's got some opinions about this, and I think it's pretty well resolved how he gets around this one.
And look, I'm about as gun guy gets. And I'm going to
action shots. Ooh, action shots, baby. That was pretty good.
He has to show it.
I like it. Good slideshow. Good slideshow. Very well done. That's why we got a fair use this, because he has some super high-speed pictures of him with the firearms and the rifles and the things. I love it. Well done.
I'm going to be honest with you. Riding through what looks like East Baghdad with an AR slung across you while riding a scooter going 15 miles an hour is diabolical, and it looks a little goofy. My first gut reaction watching this is exactly the same as the guy filming it, which is what I'm looking at right now. But
so what do you feel like when you look at that as an Irish citizen, when you see a young fella rocking dreads, working that electric scooter, getting around town, listening to his music with that AR-15? What are you like? Like what are you thinking?
If he has the right to carry it, which he does, obviously have the right to carry it. as pointed out in that video, he literally rode past 2 police officers. So he was completely within his rights to carry an AR around the place. Completely within his rights. Now, it's probably strange because most Europeans would probably disagree with me saying that. But when in Rome, do as Rome. Every time I've traveled abroad, I've always never judged another culture by my own standards. It's probably the best way.
Yeah,
So,
as best one can for things that aren't
yes.
too far outside the Overton window. If people are obviously
But
being
even-
damaged or hurt, you're like, that might not be
Yeah,
acceptable.
even outside the Overton window, say if you go to Muslim countries and so on, look, when you're there, you have to abide by their culture. Or when you go to more Eastern European countries or so
Well,
on.
yeah, but because you're
Yes.
you're subject to the criminal law.
Yes, but also you don't judge people's culture. I think it's a bad idea to judge other people's cultures. I know some Europeans are always, I wouldn't say judgmental when it comes to your gun laws, but they are. They are pretty much judgmental.
Right. But
Until the bad guy breaks into their house and robs them blind.
right.
Then they kind of see the appeals of
That's a
maybe
bit
having
of a
something to defend
problem.
ourselves with is probably going to be a good idea.
Yeah. The natural right of an individual to defend themselves against whatever it is the bad guy's going to have is probably
Yes.
the best and safest. So
No, I already had interesting discussion there actually, just the Sunday just gone. And I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm showing him pictures of my time over in the States. I'm showing him obviously the pictures of the firearms I used, so on.
right.
And he said, I can't understand, the culture of guns. And I said, to be honest, I said, if a fella's running towards you with a machete, what are you going to use, words or a gun to stop him? Realistically.
You mean if they're being unreasonable and they're attempting to use lethal force on you?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes. I would prefer to have, I would more than willingly like to have a gun on me to deal with a situation like that.
I would in fact believe a firearm would be the best tool in my kit bag for the case presented there.
Yes.
Patrick, that might be the right thing.
I think, yeah, some of my some of the younger Irish I'd be talking to are very delicate flowers is the word I could use.
Oh,
when it comes to those.
Ouch.
Yeah. You know the ones they go to the protests in Cork City, the Free Palestine and all that crowd.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
You know them, yeah. That crowd.
The ones with the soft hands and no hair on them. Yes, got it.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
But that gut reaction is the whole reason I wanted to talk about this, because it begs a real question, which is, at what point does OpenCarry go from, yeah, I get it, to, okay, now this is just goofy? And where exactly is that line, and who gets to draw it?
I don't know, man. I just don't know.
Right, that's the honest reaction, and I respect it, but here's where my brain goes once I get past the visual, because as goofy as it looks, ask yourself the actual question underneath it, which is, what is the point of OpenCarry if you're not going to carry the most capable thing you own? Because here's the thing most people who don't live in this gun world don't understand. A concealed carry gun is a compromise.
100%. You want the best tool for the job. If you have somebody who's coming at you and they're 35 meters away and you know they have bad intent, you have to wait a little bit with a pistol to ensure that you have a good sight picture and that the thing behind them is there's just a set of things you have to do. The 4 golden rules, right? Don't put your finger in the trigger well, la la la, right? All these things we need to know to ensure the safety of the
common
public.
sense. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of them are common sense.
Right. So if you're going to engage a threat with a firearm, a rifle is generally a better tool. It's going to be more on target. It's going to be less dangerous for anybody in the area. And if whatever the threat is, whatever act they're performing, and you can stop them from doing the thing that is unlawful or causing lethal distress or great bodily injury, then you use the tool to stop the interaction, right? You stop the threat, right? But you're not going to go to the baby M&P shield with 7 rounds in it if you have a fully capable AR with 30 rounds, plus maybe 1 in the chamber if you're feeling froggy, to dispatch a threat effectively and safely for everyone in the area, because you have the capacity to keep your fellow members of the community as safe as you can, because you have that. But then again, understand, if everybody's open carrying an AR, or if you don't know what the hell they have on them, or, hey, everybody's got a gun, huh? How about we just be nice? Your friend Thomas Hobbes said that. You remember Thomas Hobbes? Him and John Locke talked about stuff like this. A couple hundred years back. They decided society was savage, and the best way to ensure less savagery was to equalize the playing field by ensuring that people had firearms. People were a whole lot nicer, right? Disputes resolved a whole lot more equitably when that is the case. So,
yes, I was about to say that's yeah, that usually fixes those problems real quick.
Right. Oh, and people who think that we shouldn't have guns must not have seen FBI statistics on women who are treated unfairly and harshly in inappropriate ways. If they had a firearm on them, then they would not have had the bad thing happen to them, more than likely, provided they were, had their wits about them and maybe weren't intoxicated. But in a regular situation where a stranger comes at you in a way that's not appropriate, if you had a firearm or some really good bear mace, right? Firearm better, bear mace second, third, lots of judo and karate, but boys are pretty strong. So probably shouldn't. Yeah, probably should just get the firearm. All right, here we go.
That little gun on our hip is not the standard. It's not our first pick. It's the thing we settle for because you had to hide it. And we've all done concealed carry for so long that we've quietly started treating the compromise like it's the gold standard when it never was. Think about it like this. If somebody told you right now, hey, in 20 minutes, you're getting into a gunfight, guaranteed. Your first move is not reaching for the slim little 9mm you tuck inside your waistband so it doesn't print through your shirt. Your first move is grabbing a rifle because there's an old saying that you use your handgun to fight your way to your rifle. And
so use an expression there, print. In that instance, print is when whatever your outer clothing layer drops onto either just under your armpits or on your belt line, wherever your firearm happens to be. It's a CCW like faux pas for people to see that you are carrying the firearm because it is supposed to in fact be concealed, right? The problem is it's an infringement of the Second Amendment, right? So the right to keep and bear arms shouldn't be infringed. You should be able to carry it however you want. If you want to carry your hand cannon cowboy killer like on your hip riding high, like so everybody can see it, right? Then that is what you should be able to do. It's very, very strange because this isn't even a 10th Amendment problem, which is if a function isn't enumerated as being that of the federal governments, it's either the people or the state. The Second Amendment bypasses all that. It's a constitutional amendment that says this is the thing. You will do this, right? Not only is it your right, but it's your duty to attempt to protect community. And then the Militia Act of 1792, which identifies every militia age male, which is roughly ages 16 to 45, is to buy their own military grade firearm and report to a local training area to be trained up as the militia in case you get called on by the state or federal government to protect our land, right? So there's a massive disconnect after World War II to now. It functionally started around 1913 and Woodrow Wilson, but that's a pretty long story. But functionally, this shouldn't be an issue. There should be no question about, you want to carry an AR-15? Go ahead. You want a giant, 6-shooter on your hip? Do it. What do you want? You want to walk around with a cannon? Walk around with a cannon. Good luck. Have fun. But it will protect our land more effectively than we don't have guns, because then not only does it not protect us from outside invasion, it doesn't protect us from inside tyranny. Right.
It's interesting that when I see a lot of people on about tyranny, do most Americans worry about their government coming in and laying down the boot?
The problem is it's already tyrannical. We have agencies inside of our government which are independent agencies. The problem with an independent agency is it's not an Article 1, Article 2, or Article 3 section of our government. And if it is in fact unregulated, it's wielding somebody's power. So it's either wielding the power of Congress, the executive, or the judiciary. And it's mostly wielding the power of the executive branch, but it's also generated a thing called the judicial oligarchy, right? So however it is that the Supreme Court interprets or district courts interpret the Constitution isn't really how it's supposed to go. Courts are supposed to adjudicate based on law between two parties, right? And
Right.
the result of that should be how it applies to those two people. And if there's another case, then you try the next case, right? But the problem is they're continuing to reinterpret things over and over and over. So like things aren't supposed to change like that quickly unless there's an actual amendment, right? Without an amendment to the Constitution, then things are moving so wildly quickly. That means the situation and the space must be tyrannical. It has to be. There isn't a choice. For things to flip back and forth like that, right? Like we had the immigration thing, right? Nope, if you're born here, you're an American citizen. How does that work? So what you're saying is we don't actually have a border, and anybody who violates it is awarded with a little prize of American citizenship, which means in 18 years, they've lived in another country. They can say they're a citizen here, come back here, vote in our elections, and just jam everybody in the ass because they...
Oh, you were talking about the birthright citizenship that we covered
Right.
there recently.
Right. So,
Okay.
but that it doesn't make sense. It literally makes zero sense because they're not subject to any jurisdiction other than that of criminal jurisdiction. They're not subject to the jurisdiction of the sovereign, which is the federal government of the United States, or even the state within which they live, right? Which is
But
why
your Supreme Court upheld that, right, didn't it?
Chief Justice Roberts said some very strange things. Yes.
Right.
And
who appointed Roberts again?
I'm not sure. I can't remember right now. Amy Coney.
He was one of you. He was a.
Was he Trump?
Yeah.
Right. And Amy Coney Barrett.
By the way, most of the people who actually on the Supreme Court that upheld that, most of them were appointed by Trump in his first term for the most part.
The it was the three ladies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Amy Coney Barrett and Chief Justice Roberts. So it was the three liberals. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So, but that should not be a situation that occurs, right? Because the 14th Amendment wasn't written for that purpose. But we're going way far afield. We'll do another.
Yeah, we're going way off field, as they would say.
We'll do another episode on that sometime soon. It's just really, really good stuff.
There's a reason that saying exists. So when OpenCarry is on the table and you no longer have to hide anything, the honest answer to what should you carry is the bigger, more capable thing. And yeah, on paper, that's a rifle. Now, do I do that? No. I carry a handgun. And I carry a handgun because for me, the daily headache of walking around with a rifle slung on my body outweighs the daily benefit, the attention, the normie shock and awe, the guy filming me the second I step outside, all of it. That math just doesn't work for my life, but that's my math for my situation. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend my math is everybody's math. So to the scooter guy, genuinely, do you, boo-boo. And here's the part I really want people to sit with for a second, because I think the reason this looks so alien to us has almost nothing to do with the guy and everything to do with the fact that we're just not used to it. We're not used to seeing rifles out in public in this country. You'll see pictures out of Israel, well, citizens are walking around with rifles slung. And I'll be honest, how real some of those specific pictures are, I can't really tell you for sure. But broadly, yeah, a society can absolutely get to a place where an armed citizen carrying a real gun is just Tuesday. And the reason it hits different here, specifically in Florida, is because OpenCarry in this state is brand new. Florida spent decades as the one red state that banned it outright, and that only changed recently. So of course nobody's used to the sight of it yet. The law just caught up and everybody's eyeballs.
California used to be the Wild West, and everybody was a gunslinger out here. Everybody.
Right.
Oh yeah, guns.
And what happened there?
Ubiquitous. Progressives, 1913, Woodrow Wilson, very strange Democrat overtake. Lots of strange things, actually. There's a long road of bad decisions that led us to this place of shame, which I reside currently. Not that California doesn't do some great things. It is a beautiful, beautiful place, and a lot of their policies are designed to help people. The problem is they're so porous that fraud gets in, and the 13.3% of tax that I pay to the state of California gets washed away by someone who has cheated or stolen EDD or Medi-Cal or some other agency, right? And
yeah, wasn't it Nick Shirley shone a light on all that fraud that was going on over there, didn't he?
He did. And then JD Vance shut down 800 or 900 of those hospices, and none of them contacted to get their license back, which means they were all illegitimate businesses. Because if any of them called and said, "Hey, we have someone in palliative care. Could you go ahead and turn the money back on? We got to pay for."
Yeah, we have a dozen patients here. Why did you turn off our money?
Right, we have real concerns, right? But the process became super easy. You don't have to have a medical degree. You can functionally forge a doctor's signature. Yeah, the way was open, and my face looks just like this crazy person every time I think of it. My eyes get wide, and I'm like,
oh. Yeah.
So, all right. Anywho, so yeah, he's talking about when it is understood that people will be carrying rifles, people will act nicer. OpenCarry is new in Florida, and it is amazing. When I was in Texas, they had OpenCarry. It was awesome. It was awesome. Like, the only place you couldn't go was into a restaurant that served alcohol, but almost literally every other place you could go in, right? On some government offices and stuff like that, but any place that was a mercantile function, or any place where you have an office, a religious, any place. You have a gun? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's fine. You have a fella or a chica that likes the Second Amendment. I would see couples going around with matching staccato pistols. If you know what a staccato pistol is, you'll understand. It's pretty high end, right? Like, we have cowboy hats and badass guns. These ones cost a lot, right? And they match. Like, that kind of like crazy stuff. But just generally, folks out there will carry, and it's not a big deal. See somebody with a firearm? Oh, cool. Take a look at it and be like, oh yeah, I like that kind of gun. I don't like that kind of gun. Yeah, I wouldn't have gone with the SIG 320. I'm more an M17 guy, or I like
just a run-of-the-mill everyday event for them.
Tuesday.
Yes.
They're still adjusting. Meanwhile, strip away the rifle for a second and ask what's actually different here. Because I carry rifles in my car. That's not a secret. That's a bigger, more capable weapon riding around with me every day. And if that scooter is his main vehicle, if that's his only way to get from A to B, then the gun in my car and the gun on his back are doing the exact same job. Mine's just hidden behind sheet metal and tent. And his is out in the sun for a guy in traffic to make a whole video about. Now, I'd be lying if I ignored the argument that's already forming in half of your heads. And it's not even the anti-gun argument. It's the pro-gun one. It's the guy in our own community going, but Colion, this stuff hurts us. This scares people. This sets the movement back. And I want to be straight with you, because there's real weight to that. If the goal is converting the person on the fence, the person who isn't even comfortable with concealed carry yet, then yeah, hitting them with a dude and a slung rifle on a scooter is not the gentle on-ramp. That's the deep end. And initially, it probably does cost you a few of those people. But the counter to that is just as real. Because the only reason this looks insane to us is repetition, or lack thereof. And the more people see something legal, safe, and uneventful happening over and over, the faster it goes from, oh my God, to, oh, that guy again.
Not only that, if you have that presence in the community, your community is genuinely safer, provided those who are using them are of more high trust. But on top of that, if a rifle used for illegitimate purposes is much less than 5% of all issues with firearms. And that is when you exclude the amount of firearms that are counted by the FBI statistics as used violently if used in suicide, which is, I believe, over 70%. So less than 5% of 30%, anything bad done in the United States is done firearms wise with a rifle, right?
I think, yes, but I didn't. If you think of the more European argument, when we say look at mass casualty events in the United States, the headlines will be all over the world. School shootings, unfortunately, and those kind of events. And how do people marry that together with your gun laws?
The massive amount of mass shooting events are done in 5 to 6 cities in the United States. They're done by gangs, and they're almost exclusively done with pistols.
Yes, but I'm talking about the school shootings and those type of events. How do most gun owners marry that together with your gun laws?
With an individual who should be individually responsible for their actions and activities?
Right.
I'm not sure. So if someone makes a decision to do a bad thing, right? And they go down to the garage and they grab a hatchet and they go somewhere and do bad things with the hatchet, the individual who performed the action or task is the one who is in charge of their own actions and agency and has done a bad thing. I wouldn't blame the hatchet.
Okay.
Right. So
well, I think because I'm just talking from a European point of view, because I've heard other
got it.
people
So
from Europe talking about
it's
all these different events.
Yeah, silly. So here's what I'm thinking. If 55,000 people a year die in one event, but only, I don't know, say 400 die from another event, one event is obviously more unsafe than the other, right? Obviously more unsafe. Just by the numbers. So we should probably stop doing the thing that kills 55,000 people more than the one that kills 400, right?
And what thing is that?
Death by firearm, rifle, and death by operation of motor vehicle or because of motor vehicle. So if you really care about the safety of it, if 55,000 people die because of car crashes, but 400 people die because of rifle related things in the United States, then you should probably just stop everyone from driving to save those 55,000 lives, right? And driving is not a right. You have a right to keep and bear arms in the United States. It is a privilege to operate a vehicle, which is why it is wildly insane that any state can, against the infringement clause of the Second Amendment, say we're just going to adjust that, right? Like, I should be able to buy a firearm.
But do you think states should do states have a right to, or should states be allowed to interfere with any of these rights?
Absolutely not. Not at all. Zero.
Right.
Yeah. 0.
But states do obviously amend.
So if there is a law, and it is, we're going to call it a good law, right?
No, what I'm saying is I've seen states changing their gun laws, like California and so on.
Yes, but let me finish this concept. So let's say there's a good law, it does good things. Let's say there's 2 unsafe chemicals in the water, right? One's really unsafe and one's just, oh, that one's really bad, right?
Okay.
So we pass a law for the first one, right? And we're like, okay, the second one is actually fairly deadly as well. So we will go ahead and amend the law to cover the 2 chemicals in the water, right? Right. So we're going to regulate these 2 water related things because we have the capacity to do so, right? Now, there is no law or there is no constitutional amendment, right? The Bill of Rights, there's nothing that says anything about water rights and this kind of thing, right? So if we're going to create laws about them, then Congress would generate laws, right, to say, ooh, unsafe stuff, right? However, if a civil right says you cannot restrict free speech, you cannot restrict firearms, that you shall not infringe, right? And you notice in the United States, we have the right to freedom of speech. We do not have freedom of expression.
Right? Yeah, I remember actually, but the interesting thing about the freedom of speech one was I remember Mark Rubio turning around and his exact words was, that law only applies to U.S. citizens, not any citizens who come into U.S.
Correct. And they lose their visas and stuff like that. But here's the deal.
Especially if you talk out against, certain people in the administration.
Whomever.
As we've seen with certain journalists around the world.
Because people get pissy. But the thing is it says that will not, like, you have the right to free speech, free assembly, practice of religion, and you have the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. It shall not be infringed. So anytime
that's only for U.S. citizens only, just to bear that in mind, isn't it?
Correct. So if you make a law that restricts a firearm from a citizen of the United States in any way, you have infringed. Understanding that the term militia was those of age 16 to 45 who could fight and be called up into service in the United States. Now, because we have females in the United States military all over the place and they're competent enough to carry firearms, I'm guessing now it's every American citizen from 16 to 45 should not in any way have their right infringed. And before that, they should be safety trained. And after that, if they still have firearms, right, and you're still an American citizen,
but
you
obviously,
still have the right.
Obviously, if a person is, mentally unwell and so on, obviously you don't want them to have, access to firearms. I presume there's laws around that scenario as well, isn't there?
There are laws. If you are 5150'd and you are considered a threat to yourself or others, there are some restrictions, and that's why there is a DOJ, Department of Justice background check for those who want to purchase firearms. And a lot of states have that as well, except the state one really isn't needed, and it tends to jam up the process, right? I don't mind that the federal government has. I mean, I don't like it. Don't get me wrong, I don't like it. But if that's a barrier that's been accepted, right? But it still feels like an infringement to me. It just,
well, obviously you don't want the guy howling at the moon to have a rifle. Let's be realistic about it. If you know what I mean. Or even any form of firearm. Obviously, you don't want that guy to be rocking around the place.
I'm going to say, although I don't want him to have it, you may have the right to bear it, regardless of what I want. Regardless of what I want, right?
But obviously, the law has to have a certain amount of common sense, as they would say long ago.
Oh yeah, we should have a bunch of common sense gun laws. Those are my favorite. Nope.
But I'm not saying, to infringe too much on the spirit of the Constitution, but
not be infringed. Shall not.
Yes, but obviously you don't want a bunch of loonies running around with a rifle. You know what I mean? But obviously there has to be common sense somewhere around the line. Even most guys around the gun culture in the United States will agree that they don't want the crazy man down the road to have a rifle. If not, even they have to admit that much.
They do. They apparently do have to admit that. So anyway, let's get to the next part of this. We don't have a lot left, so let's get her knocked out.
And normal is just weird that happened enough times. So does it help or hurt? Genuinely, I think it's a little bit of both. At the same time, depending on who's watching. And I'm not gonna pretend that's a clean answer, because it's not. But let me put my lawyer hat on for a second, because there's a part of this a lot of people cheering the video are gonna gloss over. The reason those cops rolled past him and did nothing is not an accident, and it's not them being lazy, it's that Florida law changed. An appeals court threw out the state's open carry ban. The attorney general told law enforcement across the state to stand down, not arrest people for carrying openly, and that's the only reason this plays out the way it does on camera. And here's the catch, because legal is not a magic force field. Open carry being legal does not mean you can carry anywhere. It doesn't touch the courthouse, the police station, the school, polling place. It doesn't override the store owner who puts a sign on his door. And it absolutely does not cover you the second that rifle comes off your back in a way that looks angry or threatening to somebody, because now you're not an open carrier, you're a brandishing.
So brandishing is interesting. You do not brandish or bring that firearm up to bear from a low ready unless there's a threat. Right, so that's super important to keep track of. Lots of states have really good you can carry laws, but really bad if you mess up, right? So Arizona is really, really good about this one, where if it even looks like you could possibly be brandishing that firearm to exert lethal threat on others, you're immediately liable, right? But they get a lot of cases where somebody says, well, I saw that gun and he took it out of his the holster. And they're like, yeah, because I put it in my trunk into the box to secure it because I was going into a restaurant or a government building or a polling place, excuse me, or whatever, right?
Yes.
And I'm not brandishing, I'm just securing the firearm in the vehicle. Happens to be I'm doing it this way, right? So things like that happen.
And the same freedom that let this man roll past two cops will have you sitting across from a detective if you handle it wrong. Free to carry is not the same as free from consequences, and the people who forget that are the ones who end up learning the law the expensive way. Which honestly brings me to the thing I keep coming back to every time I watch this clip, because you strip out the goofiness, you strip out the debate, and what you're actually looking at is a regular guy exercising a right out loud in broad daylight past armed agents of the government who look at him and decided he hasn't done a single thing wrong. And I sat here trying to think of something more American than a dude on a scooter with a slung AR rolling past two cops who can't touch him because the state finally said he's allowed to. And I got nothing. That is the country. That's the whole experiment in one ridiculous, beautiful frame.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I love it. It's just amazing. It really is.
Yes, he actually puts it very, very well there, actually. As they say, America is kind of the test case, you could say, 200 plus years ago, of this whole idea of a republic in a modern era. Well, the 17th century onwards.
And that's exactly the energy behind the America 2A hat that I'm wearing right now, that it has a bullet for the eye. that's available right now at shop.mrcolionnoir.com. Because it's for the people who don't treat this right like a secret they keep tucked under a shirt. It's for the folk who wear the belief out loud the same way that man carries out loud. No apology, no hiding, no asking permission. If that's you, click the link in the description section of this video.
He's just plugging his own stuff now, which is good, which is fine.
Yeah, which is good, which is fair. He's very, he puts it very
slick.
Nicely, actually.
So yeah, we'll put the fair use stuff in there, but I think that he is spot on. That is America as America gets. And I'm fully in support of that young man doing that, provided he's legally carrying that bad boy. Hell yeah. Everybody's gonna be everybody's gonna be real nice to that fella.
As I said, look, when Europeans go abroad, and I'm talking to other fellow Europeans when I say this, be open-minded when it comes to new cultures and ideas. It might be different from where you are from, but it's still their culture and it's their beliefs. Just to bear that in mind.
Makes sense. All right, for Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, help us beat the algorithm. We're the A&P Gents. We are out.